Welcome to the Spirit of a Badass, where we celebrate stories of courage, hope, and resiliency. I'm your host, Alecia Jacobson. Hey, badasses! I have a great episode for you today. One of my favorite things in life is hearing people's stories and also learning all the things. And a few weeks ago, I was with a client and she was sharing the story with me about this woman and talking about her work. And I was like, wait. I need to hear more about this. And instead of just asking her questions, I went straight to the source. And today you get to benefit from that also, because I brought her on because I think her message and what she's doing is so powerful. So I'm really excited for not only for me to hear her story, because I've only heard a bit of it so far, but for you to also hear her story. Kate Johnson is an attorney and a certified cannabis coach and educator. She recently transitioned from a 15-year legal career to follow her heart and build a business that was aligned with her passion, helping people feel better with cannabis. Through her business, Your Kush Coach, Kate guides her clients to the best cannabis and CBD products, including dosing, timing, and how-tos. So today, welcome, Kate. I'm really excited to talk to you and hear all about your story.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So I heard about you and I was like, I need to know more. And I immediately sent you a message and said, hey, we need to connect, because this is something that, one, I find so interesting, but it's also something that personally I have had a lot of clients tell me, because I have a little bit of like anxiety, like I think the normal mom type of anxiety that has gotten more overwhelming as I've gotten older. And people always say, have you tried edibles? Have you tried this? And I know, because back in high school had horrible experiences. And I know that people also have really great experiences with it. So when I heard about you, I was like, yes, because this is something, stress and anxiety are the two biggest things that the women that I work with suffer from. So the fact that you have this skill and this coaching that can support women with this, tell me your story.
Yeah. So we we can get to the details of cannabis and CBD in a second, because I do think it absolutely can help, and it absolutely helps stress and anxiety. But there's also situational stress and anxiety that you can't CBD your way out of, right? And that's a lot of what my story is, really recognizing the state that you're in and making many changes to your life, one of which can be incorporating cannabis. But if that was a silver bullet, everybody would be doing it and everybody would be low stress, right? There's many things. So my story is really how I recognized my own burnout and my own lack of alignment in my career as an attorney, and made a lot of shifts to follow my passion and to become a certified cannabis coach and educator and open my own cannabis education business. So part of the reason I want to share this story, so I do want to mention at the head, the story does reference childhood trauma that I lived through, no details, but for people for whom that's uncomfortable to listen to, trigger warning. The reason that I'm sharing this story is really in the hope that if somebody listening identifies with it, if it resonates with you, maybe you can come to understand that there is a way to heal, there is a path, there is a way out. If I can spare you from the burnout state that I was in, that low state, it's worth me sharing it. And you can get better. You can get to the other side of it. So the way I think about it now, with a little bit of an arm's length distance from it, is I was kind of living three different versions of myself. There was three different Kates out in the world. So there was like who I was socially outside of work with my friends and my family. There's who I was at work, attorney Kate. And then there's who I was on the inside, my internal struggle that I didn't really share with anybody. And the person I was at home, loved to laugh. I was silly. I was light. I loved like kind of the woo things, holistic healing and yoga and energy work and all of this stuff. And I used cannabis very regularly as part of my life. I always have. It helps me check into the present moment. It helps me connect with myself. It helps me connect with others, with nature, with the higher realm. It's just a beautiful supportive tool for wellness. And we will get to how to use it that way, because I think people can have a bad experience with it that doesn't resonate that way. But I use it in a very supportive and nurturing way. The person I was at work, though, the attorney Kate, was far more serious, right? I was mitigating risk. My whole job was to think of all of the worst case scenarios that could possibly happen and then draft contracts to consider all of them. It's kind of a dark place to live every day. You're constantly looking at the negative. You're constantly thinking of disasters, and you can't really joke around. It's a lot of serious subject matter to cover. You have to be really straight laced. It's a hyper masculine space. So you're expected to work long hours. Your children and your family are obstacles to your productivity. You know what I mean? And that's stressful in its own. And then there was my internal self, the third self that I didn't share with anybody. I was really hiding a tremendous amount of pain from a very traumatic childhood. And which, just a snippet, is, my dad was an alcoholic for, I don't know, 25 plus years. My mom was sometimes in and out of there. It was chaos. It was violence. It was abuse. It was neglect. It was all of these things. But here I was, just pretending that it was good, pretending that my childhood was as good as anybody else's and my relationship with my parents was healthy, when in fact it had been really, really painful and really horrible. It was all a secret that I really pushed down, and I hid it from all of my friends and even my husband to a great extent. They don't know anything more than what I've just said. To this day, no one really knows what all went down. But it was really exhausting to do that. It was really exhausting to do that. And so it was just a lot of turmoil. So I held all these personalities together because that's like adulting, right? That's what I thought we had to do. So simultaneously, in the past decade or so, had been keeping an eye on the growing cannabis industry, the legal industry. As a regular user forever, you're like, wow, this is finally legal. This is incredible. People are discovering the benefits of the plant. Like, how do I get in? This is my space, right? And I tried a few things. I founded the Cannabis Industry Association of Wisconsin, which was the first of its kind in the state. And I did a few things here and there, but nothing quite like fit. So I kind of continued my attorney life, my three Kates life. And things started breaking down. Around COVID, there was a few things that happened. One, I think we all started reflecting, right? So we all started just seeing that there was other ways to live in the world, and there was just sort of a breakdown of what we had assumed was the only way to exist. And so I started looking around. How did I get here? How did I get in this job? Why am I doing something that's so unlike me every single day and living this dual life, right? But we live in this achievement-based society. You get as much education as you can. You get the highest paying, most serious job you can, and that's success. You're there. I never questioned it. And in fact, I sort of have a hierarchical model of jobs in my mind, really to this day, right? But I saw so many people in my career, and I think this probably resonates with a lot of your listeners, that just seem like trapped by their circumstances. Like, they get a high paying job and then they build up this infrastructure around them. And now they have a cabin, and now they have a boat, and now this and now that. And they feel like they can't change. They're trapped. Right. And it was such a cautionary tale to me to just not go down that road, because I just knew that it led to just this hollowness that I felt in people. So when COVID hit, I was then an attorney for a large hospital system, and it was just very, 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 very hard. It was very grim every day, day in, day out. You never got a break from COVID. People were dying left and right. This was the real stuff we were dealing with. You never got a break. And I had a daughter doing remote kindergarten at the same time at home. And I had all of the things, all of us, the emotional turmoil from watching these things fall apart and all these things being revealed to us, the pain that we all saw. And at the same time, so that was all happening. And the work me was I was starting to question that and poke holes in that. And we were all starting to see that there was different ways to live, but it wasn't quite clear what to do. The internal me I had started therapy at this point and was really starting to face some of the really difficult things that I had been pushing down and how much they had shaped me. And it just brought up so much anger, so much grief, so much sadness, revealed how many layers at my core just had holes in them. They never had a chance to form with love. And it hurt. It hurt my physical body in a very visceral way. It hurt my heart and it hurt my head in a very physical way. And then, the stress of COVID and that job and everything. I mean, my neck hurt. I was under so much stress and tension that I couldn't bend my neck to pour a bowl of cereal for my kids. That's how much physical pain and stress I was under.
Have you heard, I can't remember if we talked about this before, The Body Keeps the Score. Have you heard of that book?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it. it really sums it up. The book is brilliant. It's Bessel
Yeah.
van der Kolk. That's it. And that's what I was starting to unearth and dig up, right? But there's no escaping it. So what I also found out in the process of this was that I was living with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, clinically was diagnosed by my MD and my therapist. So I was living with hypervigilance, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, triggers, and I didn't know because it started when I was a child. That's how I always had been. And I thought that highly activated state was just me. And I thought it was a flaw in my character. I did not understand that it was truly a trauma response. It was truly my body's response. And the body keeps the score. It really outlines this, is that your body gets rewired. And so you take in information differently. And a lot of times you're stuck in your amygdala. You can't even get to your cortex. You can't get to the rational part of your brain because you're stuck in this fight or flight. So that was a hard realization. It was like freeing on the one hand, because I then understood what I was dealing with and could address it with the right tools. But it was also really sad for me. It was really, there was a lot of grief with that I had to live with that and not understood the effect that it had. So it was just a hard time. All these things are happening at once, all these times. And I kept, telling my boss, my brain feels like an iPhone that needs a hard reset. Like I can't take in any more information. I'm done. Like I'm burned out. And I knew that I had to do something, but I didn't know what it was. And I saw this quote. It's an ancient Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu. And it said, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you're heading. And I was like, woo, okay. So if I stay in this stressed out state and I don't change a single thing about my life, that's going to be my path. It just resonated so hard with me. And so that was like, what do I do? What do I do? And I happened upon this cannabis coaching and education. I didn't know that it was a path. I didn't know that it was a thing, right? And I found this cannabis coaching institute where I ended up getting my cannabis education. And it was like my life crystallized before my eyes. I was like, this is what I can do, because what I already do in my spare time is help people understand the plant, help them get excited about it, help them understand how to use it for their benefit, how to use it, make it work for you and not against you. This is what I already do for free. Imagine if I got paid,
Yeah.
So I started taking the coursework, and I did it my nights and weekends. It was like 6 months. It took me longer than that because I was doing nights and weekends. So I kind of had that going while I was still working as an attorney. But it really came to a point eventually where my stress, my burnout came to a point where I was really kind of non-functional. I was, I couldn't think straight. I was crying all the time. It was just, I was showing up in ways that I didn't want to show up. I was snapping at, you know what I mean? I was just at the point of truly, true burnout. I didn't recognize myself. And at that time, those quizzes were floating around. It was like, how stressed are you? Green and, yellow, orange, red. And I was like past red. And I was like, oh boy, but it's that sort of analogy. You throw a lobster in boiling water, it knows it's boiling and it jumps right out. But if you crank that heat up slowly, it doesn't know it's boiling. And that was me. It was all of these things working together slowly, and you degrade and degrade and degrade, and you don't really realize where you're at.
Can I repeat that for everybody? Because you said it was slowly and slowly and slowly, and you don't even realize that it's happening. And this happens, and people have no idea. They don't know how they got where they are. And they don't, like you said, like you're trapped. You've created this space and you're so stuck there. And it happened. It's like day after day after day, habit after habit, thing after thing. And before you know it, and that is something that I talk about with people a lot, is that sort of unconscious way of living and not living with intention, because you're just like head down doing the next thing and not really paying attention. And so many women especially live that way.
Yes. And you take on all of these burdens. You take on the burden of the expectations of how much money you need to have, how your house needs to look, how your kids need to be in sports. All of these societal expectations add up. And then so you kind of think, well, I'm just here to facilitate the rest of that. You forget that you're here to be yourself and to share your gifts with the world, right? You forget about yourself. You forget to count yourself. You're just sort of a means to an end. And I talk to so many people that are like, yeah, I just don't know what else I would do. But that's it. They end the sentence there. They end the thought there. Well, you got to put some time into it, right? You got to think about it, carve out some time and space. And part of also why I'm sharing this story is like carve out that time and space to ask yourself the right questions. You can hire a business coach or a life coach, certainly. You can also get a lot of this information for free. Every coach has some free content to help, their lead generation content to help you to help ask those initial questions. And if you just went around the internet and took all of that free information and then carved out an hour each day to ask yourself these questions, journey of a thousand miles begins with a single step, right? You would be there eventually. It's just, we don't do that. We just kind of, and there's sort of a martyr complex layered on top of that, right? I just am here for my kids, and that's what a mom should do and shouldn't consider herself. So there's a lot, right? There's a lot of socialization that goes into it. And there's a lot of just not of putting ourselves last, but you don't have to. And what happened to me was, sort of going back to the story and where this turning point came was I ended up taking a leave of absence from my job, which is something I never thought I would do. I have never been the one to ask for help. I have never been the one to ask for accommodations. I've always been the people pleaser, the yes woman. I can take on every extra project, but I just knew I couldn't get through another day. And my sister-in-law was like, I think you need to take a leave. I think you should consider it. And as soon as she said it, it was like this relief just flooded over me. I knew that I could probably live another day if I could just stop, So I did that. And it's funny, I really underestimated what the burnout had done to me. I kind of made this list of like, okay, on my leave, I'm going to do things that bring me closer to myself. I'll visit the art museum and I'll do this craft project and I'll do the things that bring me joy. I couldn't do anything. I swear to you, I was absolutely non-functional. I laid down in my room with the eye mask on, with the earplugs in. I couldn't tolerate light. I couldn't tolerate sound. I couldn't have conversation. I couldn't watch TV. It was too much processing effort. I mean, my brain had burned out and melted down. And it was scary. It really was scary. I mean, I was so far from myself. So I took that time. And as I took that time, I was then started a lot of the things that helped with PTSD, a lot of the things that helped with the stress breakdown, like doing yoga in a more meditative way, doing qigong, doing energy healing, doing trauma release exercises, doing myofascial release, doing meditation with the Headspace app. Really, what I was trying to do was train myself to down-regulate my nervous system because I'd been living in such an activated state. And I started contemplating my next step. I knew I couldn't go back to the old job and expect a different result. So it was time for me to make a change. So it was a big deal. It was a big decision, but I knew this was the fork in the road for me. I knew that I would just go right back to the same life and the same stress and the same out of alignment with the career that I'm in and being all these different versions of myself. I was like, all of these versions need to compress into one version. So I quit the hospital and I finished my cannabis education coursework and I began building my business. And, for the first time in my life, I felt like joyful to go to work. I was so excited. I was so inspired. I was thinking about it constantly. And I can tell you that never has happened to me in 15 years as an attorney, So that was it. I mean, I was living in alignment finally.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
Like just that you had 15 years
of not being myself. Towards the end of my attorney career, I was in a dissociative state. I was floating above myself, watching a version of myself through Zoom. I mean, it was that far out of alignment, and now I'm just showing up as myself. I'm speaking my truth. I'm networking with all these amazing cannabis people. These are my people. I found my people. Whoever your people are, whoever your tribe is, whatever your interests are, go do that. And I don't mean quit your job tomorrow. I know that's not practical, but start making a plan. Start thinking about it. Start asking yourself the right questions. Start putting a little savings aside. However makes you feel ready to take a jump like that, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Well, and a lot of the time too, it doesn't have to be something as big as quitting a job. It can be whatever else would be causing that stress, that burnout. Sometimes it's an organization or people that you're around. And it's like, what does it look like? Some people get so stuck on this is the end all be all. They don't think that, oh, maybe there's another way. Maybe these people are not my people. Maybe it's okay if I get a different friend group. Maybe my family isn't the people. Yes, it's family, but maybe there needs to be some boundaries there. They think it has to be either or, black and white. And really it's like, no, because yes, you went through the absolute, your body was like, I'm on break. I'm done. You're going to rest. So we're not doing anything. But then when you started, the excitement, the life, the like, I found my people, like living in that state where you have this heightened love and excitement for life, that's it right there. That is it. And it doesn't have to be big like a job. It can be in the smallest things. Find your joy, find what those things are. And like you said, your sister-in-law almost gave you permission. And that is something I hear all the time of like, this person gave me permission, almost like they needed that external. So maybe even looking at what is it like to give yourself this permission, not getting it from someplace outside, or having that conversation. If you wouldn't have shared that with her, that wouldn't have happened. And so opening up and sharing with people, here's where I'm at, because keeping it inside, then nobody knows. And you don't even have there's no people. So sharing when you have these experiences.
It's so true. It's absolutely true. 100%. I got some good advice that was speak to yourself the way you would speak to your friend. And it actually brings me to tears to think of that, because I remember just how harsh I was on myself and how hard I was on myself. And if you take that tack with yourself where you're giving yourself grace and you're giving yourself kindness and you're allowing yourself like, hey, you deserve happiness. You deserve your own internal joy, and following that and to your point, to whatever degree that makes sense for you. But what do you have if you don't have that? And you can have that and you can achieve that and it can be yours. And by yours, I mean, in your image, the thing that you're into. It doesn't have to be what I did, but it's possible. And I agree, sharing it is hard. For me, sharing, especially that internal piece, especially that trauma piece, was so hard because there's so much shame in it, and I sort of had to understand, like, that's just the card I drew. That's just the household I was born into. It's not a reflection of me. And that took a long time to get to. But I think some people are stopped from sharing that because they feel like they're less than if they've gone through that. And that's, part of my impetus for sharing it here as well, is to say, it's not your fault. And you can get through that and you can work through that. And then once a lot of that stuff is gone and that icky stuff that's been holding you down, it's like letting go of suitcases you didn't even know you were carrying. You can be so much lighter and you can allow space in for joy that you didn't even know you could have. Or maybe you didn't think you deserved, but you do.
That's beautiful. So you started your business. You are excited. Tell us, what does a day look like for you?
Yeah. So my business is a cannabis education and coaching business. The services I offer are a few services. So the longer version is a personal cannabis consultation where we talk about kind of what's going on with you, why you want to use cannabis, what's worked, what hasn't. And I, write up a set of recommendations for different product types, different doses, different timing, and really have a plan, a regimen, and then support you through that plan. And there's also a quicker service I offer called Dispensary Decoder. And that's for people who are they already kind of know they want to use cannabis. They kind of know what they want, but they're overwhelmed by the dispensary because you go there and it's just a bajillion things. You don't know what the words are. So this is a quick 30 minutes based on what you're telling me. Here's what I think the words are you should look for, the words are you should avoid. Here's what these mean. Just a little education so that you feel comfortable going in there. I also do cannabis education workshops and just various other things. And so a day for me, it's been interesting because since I get to now structure my day, I've learned a lot about how I work. So for me, from 8 a.m. to like 1 p.m. is my flow time. I get in there and I will forget to eat, just be in a flow and getting all the work done, all the creative work, blog writing, whatever, the creative work out. And then I take a break. I go on a walk outside for a mental health break, or I'll do yoga if it's, winter time or whatever. I'll take a physical break and a mental health break. I'll eat a nutritious meal. And then I'll come back and do more task-based work. For me, that's my rhythm. In the afternoon, it's more, responding to emails, the more click around back-end website, those kinds of things. But it's also been a real joy to work within that, because in the working world, you don't get to choose when you do what kind of thing. You're meeting, and you're supposed to show up 100% equally at all times of day, and so now I'm just giving myself an understanding of when I work best and what I should fit into where. So that's actually been really beautiful. Every day is a little bit different because of all those different things that I'm working on, but it's always in furtherance of this greater vision that I can see and that I hold and that I know why I'm doing each thing. So it's fun. It's fun.
That's really great of you. Like, it takes people a while to realize like men work on like this 24-hour rhythm. They have a 24-hour cycle. Women have the 28-day cycle. And so we go up and down during the day. And so recognizing one, we're not even taught that. Like
Right.
most people don't know this. And the standard like 9 to 5 is built for a man. And so the fact that you're realizing, oh, I'm really creative between 8 and 1, and I get in this total rhythm and flow, and this is where I do my best work, and then I take a physical and mental break, and then I come back and I do tasks. Like sometimes if you have the ability to set your life up like that, prime goal. People, if you hear this and you have the ability to manipulate your schedule and create and curate a schedule that aligns with how your brain works, how your body works. I made a lifestyle and cycle planner so that women can track their cycle and actually like plan. So when you have meetings and things like that, where you're more creative, around when they're ovulating, they can be more people facing. When they're menstruating, more like kind of doing like the tasks types work, and they can actually pay attention to it. It's just one way to do it, but you've nailed it in your day, knowing this time I'm good for this time I'm good for that, and not judging it or thinking I should be this way because this is the way I used to do it. And the amount of work you probably excel at versus trying to shove it into, here's what I'm going to do because I think it needs to be done this way, into that box. If you can change your schedule to match the way that you work naturally, please do that. Like, and flow, creativity, the things that you can actually get done is off the chain. Absolutely try to get as much of your week done like that as possible, because your productivity, and I use the word productivity lightly there, but the things that light you up or excite you will skyrocket if you can work that way.
Absolutely. And it is freeing. Even what you mentioned about just women being sort of wired differently. I feel like there's sort of a new season, yin season, and getting in touch with the divine feminine, all of these things that are more in the cultural sort of zeitgeist, is really understanding that we are built differently. And of course, gender is a spectrum. I'm not here to talk about this in binary, but there are real differences in how we're built, and in how our hormones come and go, and how our energy comes and goes. And then there's differences from person to person. And so just honoring that, and that we're not made from cookie cutters, is the most beautiful thing. And that's when you're going to have the greatest output. And if productivity is king, you need to figure out how that works for you, not from the cookie cutter, but from your internal alignment and your internal energy cycles, however those might show up for you. It makes a world of difference. Also, just doing something that you love. I mean, there's no possible way, even if I could work that schedule in my old job, my old life, there wasn't the avenue for creativity that I've now created for myself. So there's pieces of that too. And if you find yourself in just a boring job that you don't like, slowly kills your soul. And then what do you have? So I think it's really a matter, again, like we said, of finding that thing, and then figuring out how you can shape it to honor yourself, to honor the full self.
Yeah, the full self. That's key.
I'm on the other side of a lot of this, but not all of it. Like, I'm not at the now put a bow on it, I'm fully formed. That's not it. It's still a lifetime of work, and there's still practices that I engage in every day, like yoga and like meditation, and using my breath as my superpower. It's the only thing you have that will always be there for you and will always be free and available to you, right? So once you learn how to harness that, you always have that tool. So there's certain things that I still engage in because I still find myself activated. Life does that to you, right? And so it's a matter of taking control and understanding that life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you, and you can steer it and create it and make it in the image that you want it to be. It's in you. It's within you.
Yes. So please share a piece of advice or a message that you would give to someone who is maybe in a similar spot as you were.
Yeah. So, two things. One, on the work piece, and I think we've covered this pretty well, but carve out that time for yourself. The answers are inside of you. You just need someone to pull them out. You need those right questions. You need those right prompts. You can't just sit and think, What should I do? That's hard, right? But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. People have already figured out what the right questions are to pull the answers out of you. So do that work, carve out that time for yourself. In terms of the processing of childhood trauma, what I really want people to understand is you do need to face it at some point. The only way out is through. The only way out is through. You're going to have to dig it out. It's going to have to be painful. But once you can let it all out and release it, you can come out the other side. It's been a few years for me of hard work, of tears, of turmoil, right? But you have to get it out. And once you do, you'll feel so free. And it loses its power. Like when you're in therapy and you realize something and you can hold it out here and look at it and observe it, it loses its grip over you. It loses its power. And you can just release it eventually. And you, in going through that process, a lot of people shy away from. I did for many, 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 many years, but it's so much better on the other side. So it's absolutely worth doing. And inner child work, I would say specifically, is incredibly like the tool that you need. So try to find somebody who does inner child work, and you will understand yourself and your triggers and everything about you so much better. And you'll be able to heal and move on and really evolve in the way that you need to. And also energy work is a huge component of that. We touched on it with the body keeps the score. Therapy and all of that stuff will help you understand what happened rationally, but it's still stuck in your body in a lot of cases, right? That trauma is still stuck in your body. And energy work, I have found, and that by that I mean Reiki, soul retrieval, there's lots of energy modalities, will actually help free these little nuggets of pent up, stuck energy, stuck emotions that can come out and release. My muscles are so much looser now, and things like that will actually help you release that tension. It's actually a really critical part of the healing.
Yeah, I recently started Reiki. Well, I think it's been like 9 months now, and I love doing that kind of work. Something to your point about seeking out support with childhood, anything that's maybe happened. A good book that I have read and shared with people is called No Bad Parts. It's an internal family systems type of therapy by Richard Swartz. So that would be one if it's not something that maybe you're ready to do yet. That can be an okay, safe kind of dip your toe in the water of what does it look like to look at yourself, your past, things that have happened, and the kind of the safety of a book.
Yes, that's a great suggestion. My therapist is actually trained in internal family systems. That's definitely her kind of hallmark. And it is. I mean, it takes some of the shame out of it. It takes some of the taking it personally out of it. You can see that this is just a thing that happens, and you can see how they all fit together. So yeah, that's a great suggestion.
I don't know if my therapist is trained in it, but we did a session and it was wild. So it's a really helpful, supportive approach to kind of dealing with some things. So yeah, that's great that they're trained in it. All right. What is one hack or tip that you can share that would conserve time, energy, or resources?
I mentioned it before, but to me, it's the breath. It's understanding how to use your breath to calm yourself down. Anything that aggravates you in life, you now have mastery over if you can control your own reaction to it by taking a moment and activating the sympathetic nervous system, down regulating and calming down. Has improved my life in ways that I can barely even describe. I mean, it seems so simple, but it is so profound. I use the Headspace app, which is like incredible. There's so much content on there, and they're really teaching you how to meditate. They're teaching you how to clear the mind. And so many people, and I hear women say this all the time, I just can't, my mind's too busy. I just can't meditate. Of course, that is the practice. Your mind is no more busy than anybody else's. That's the whole point, is that it's the monkey mind, and the practice is calming that monkey mind down. Everyone can do it. It just takes practice. Again, you're not going to do it in one 15-minute session. That's not how it works. So the app is so nice because it tracks your progress. So it's kind of gamified a little bit. So you can really see that you're making progress. It's got nighttime calm down content, but really it's a muscle. You're building a muscle when you're figuring out how to do that. And it has just saved me so much energy and time and rage, to be able to access that anytime. That's my number one tip. Get the Headspace app. I think it's like $60 or $70 for a year. It sounds like a lot at first, but it's so much content. It is so absolutely worth your investment in your peace of mind if you stick with it.
Thank you. And I think they even have, I think there's like a free version. I know there's a lot of apps that you can get some basic content for the free version. But yeah, I hear all the time, I'm just not a person, like my mind is too busy. I'm not a person that I tried it once and it didn't work. And I'm like whenever I work with people, that's like one of the things that is number one. We're going to do a meditation practice. In fact, I just had a friend of mine that showed me, because sometimes I have people like put signs up like door hangers so people know not to interrupt their meditation practice. And I send like welcome gifts when I start coaching with people. And I just put some of my Amazon cart. It's like a door hanger that says meditation in progress, do not enter. But I don't think people realize a lot of times with things, people have this idea, like I see it with exercise, like they think they have to exercise for 45 minutes. It has to be super intense. Or meditation, they have to have this super clear mind and they got to sit on a rock with their hands up and like cross-legged. They have all these notions of what it has to look like. But really, I did a meditation this morning. It was 5 minutes. I only have 5 minutes, so I do it. Sometimes in the afternoon, I'll do like a 20 or 30 minute meditation, but they have 3-minute meditations. So if you can sort of redefine what that meditation and breath work looks like, and again, take it out of the box. Like it doesn't need to be this perfect packaged idea of what it has to look like, because that's an excellent. The most amount of change that I have seen in women with the reduction of stress has been if they have established a really great meditation practice. And all that means is they do it daily.
Yes. And you work your way up, right? You're learning just like anything, just like exercise, right? You work your way up and just give yourself grace, but don't reinvent the wheel here. We all know that it helps. There's millions of clinical studies that say it helps, right? So why would you're the one person it won't help? I mean, that's ridiculous, right? Just give yourself the time and do the practice and don't reinvent the wheel. Just go with it. You will feel those benefits 100%.
Yes, absolutely. Kate, so how can people get in touch with you?
So through my website, yourkushcoach.com, which I think you'll maybe link, but it's YOURKUSH coach. Kush is like a slang word for cannabis, and it also references the origin of cannabis in the Hindu Kush mountains in Afghanistan and India. So giving a homage to the origin of the plant. Yourkushcoach.com, you can schedule services right on there. You can book a free discovery call if you're not sure which service might be right for you. I'm on Instagram sporadically, so you can find me on there, but I'm not as consistent. At yourkushcoach_. But yeah, please do. I mean, if you're at all curious about using cannabis, and by that I mean both kind of the marijuana cannabis, the THC containing cannabis, and CBD, the non-intoxicating cannabis, you can incorporate them into your life and feel so much better and feel so much calmer. And people use them for different reasons. People sometimes use it for reasons, pain relief, nausea, appetite, things like that. But you can also use it for social reasons, which is my primary use, is social and spiritual. And you can certainly do that. And I can help you really navigate that world. I've been using it pretty much for 25 plus years, most of my life. Now I'm double certified and educating on it. So use me as a resource. This is my job. And I get feedback from clients all the time on how much better they feel now that they're on this regimen, how unbothered they feel about the things that used to aggravate them, the day-to-day life things, and they still live their life, right? This is the other thing I want to mention, is that there's this sort of misconception of this like stoner on the couch myth, but I've been using this my whole life. Okay. I graduated from law school with honors. I've got a family. I've got responsibilities. I'm incorporating into my life is also full of responsibilities, right? You can do that. That is possible. It doesn't mean that you're going to be checked out on the couch. That's not what it does. It helps you check in. And if that resonates with you, please reach out, because I can help you use it that way.
Yeah, you said, people report back feeling this way. So when people come in, how do they feel? And then what do they feel afterwards?
So the clients that I have come in with a variety of issues. Anxiety is quite common. Sleep issues are quite common. Chronic pain is quite common. So for each of those things sort of requires a different response. By that, I mean a different regimen of products. But all of them have had a pain reduction. All of them have had an anxiety reduction. We do this method where we track our symptom. We then track what we've taken. And on this day, I took this dose at this time. And then once it sort of kicks in, this is how I felt. And you see whichever way you want to think about it, you see the bad symptom go down, you see the positive go up. I mean, truly. So those are probably the most common reasons. Sometimes people have more complicated things. And I also have a network of of cannabis coaches and educators that have specialties. So for instance, if you have like a major gut health issue, like a Crohn's or an IBS, I know a cannabis coach that specializes in that. If it's cancer, I know a coach who specializes in that. If it's, name your specialty, fibromyalgia, there's a coach who specializes in that. So there's also that, just sort of a referral source for people who are really want to deep dive on a certain issue. But if it's anxiety, sleep, kind of run of the mill chronic pain, or just curiosity, just wanting to use it to open up socially, those are all good reasons. Wanting to use it as an alternative to alcohol is a reason a lot of people come to me. So yeah, all of the above, really.
Can you expand a little bit on the using it in place of alcohol?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, this is one of the greatest potentials for cannabis that exists, because so many moms, particularly moms, I mean, every parent, every person, right? But I interface with a lot of moms who are just, by the end of the day, every single night they're like, oh, I'm drinking too much wine, I don't want to drink this much wine. But then every single night at 5:30, like, god damn, I need some wine, and they do, and they'll drink wine and they'll wind down, but they don't like how it makes them feel. They don't like how it makes them feel in the moment, kind of sometimes crankier towards your child, or you want to get away from your child, these bad feelings. And then they feel worse the next day. They feel groggy, hungover. It's just bad, right? It's not good for us. It is poisoning us. Whereas cannabis really works with your body. It works in harmony with an internal system you already have, the endocannabinoid system. Your body already makes its own cannabis. It already makes your own cannabis. When you take in cannabis from the plant, you're just supplementing what your body already is making. It works in harmony very nicely. And so when you take cannabis at night that after work chill or whatever, for me, it helps me check in. It helps me connect with my children in this beautiful way. You really see right into their souls. You see the world through the eyes of a child. It's more playful, it's more sweet, and it's just so beautiful. And you kind of just see everything has just a little more sparkle on it, a little more, you just are grateful. You're in a space of gratitude, and it's just a beautiful thing. And so you could do that instead. Like, I want people to know you could do that instead. And that might, there's many forms that can come in. That might be smoking or vaping. That might be a seltzer. Increasingly, you can drink like a little seltzer that has a little THC or CBD. So that's like a 1-to-1 swap with alcohol, quite easy. But you can feel better. So that's what I would say. And there's some details, and that's what we could work through. But it's actually quite easy to do once you know what you should be using.
Thank you. Yeah, that's something when I'm working, like you said, moms, women, is that they're wanting to cut out their wine or their alcohol in the evenings, which a lot of it, COVID exacerbated that. And they want to cut it out, but they're like, I don't know if I really want to cut it out. I do, because I don't like the way it's impacting me. I'm not sleeping. The weight gain has happened because of it. Crankier, just all around. They don't like what it's doing, but the initial kind of hit that they get is, this is calming me down. So what a great option.
Yes. And listen, we all need something to calm us down at the end of the day. I think there's also we need to decondition our minds from this. It's not a moral failure to want to be less stressed at the end of the day, right? It's not a moral failure to use any sort of medicine that helps you feel that way. It's only a problem if it becomes a problem, if your job or your family or your relationships are in jeopardy. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about hanging out in the backyard with your neighbors, truly very calming amount that will make you feel better and give you that calm. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of times, especially moms, feel like it's wrong when they shouldn't need it. Well, get over that. If it's making you a better parent, which I do believe cannabis does for me, then that's good. I think the hesitation is, I don't know how to use it. I can't afford to be completely checked out. I've got kids that need dinner and that need this, that, and the next, right? I can't afford to be out of control. And I appreciate that. I understand that. And so my goal is to help you use it in this intentional way. And of course, you should be experimenting with it in low stakes times, not right before you need to drive somewhere. There's certain conditions that need to exist while you get comfortable with it. But once you're comfortable with it, you really can use it in a supportive way. And it really can be a beautiful alternative to alcohol that makes you feel better and not bad, right? You feel better in the moment and you don't feel that hangover and that sluggishness and that weight gain and all that. There's no hangover. So it's a great alternative.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. This has been wonderful. I can't wait for people to hear your message and then be shifted by your message, because there's no way that somebody can listen to this and not take some shift out of it. And I really hope get in touch with Kate. If this is something that at all interests you, the opportunity for you to be less stressed and to be informed, I think that's a lot of the part of it too, is that education piece is so beneficial.
Knowledge is power, and that's what I'm here to help guide you with. And my why is because I believe so truly in the power of the plant. That comes across very clearly. But the how to get there is what I can help you with. I will teach you how to use it in the right way, and then you'll feel good doing it. And it's happening all across the country. We're a little bit behind in Wisconsin because we're just behind, but it's legal medically in more than 40 states. It's legal for adult use in more than 20 states. I mean, it's the vast majority of the country. People are starting to use this. The industry's going like this because people like it. It's working. The plant is being used for our benefit. It's funny. It's not the way of the future because we've been using the plant for 12,000 years. It's only been illegal for this short time, and that's sort of what we think about. But it's been used by humans for literally 12,000 years of that we can find, probably more than that. So it's quite natural. It grows from the ground. So you just need somebody to help you through how to use it.
Yes. Thank you, Kate, so much for being here with us today. And we will put all of the links in the show notes so that you can get in touch with Kate and follow her on Instagram or find her website and get in touch with her that way. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Spirit of a Badass is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Alecia Jacobson. Music by Shane Ivers. We'll be back with another inspiring interview. Until then, keep your spirits high and your energy badass.